Hello, I'm James Goulding, editor of Technology Reseller magazine, and I'm here today with Angus, director of Brigantia, the specialist cybersecurity distributor. We're going to be talking about developments in the cybersecurity industry and the importance of working with a specialist distributor. Angus, great to see you. Thank you for coming.
It's really nice to be with you today.
So Angus, could you give me a quick overview of Brigantia?
Yeah, I'd be pleased to, James. So Brigantia is a cybersecurity distributor. We specialise on bringing very unique technologies to the UK market. We only have about 17 technologies in our portfolio that we're bringing to around 1,400 channel partners. Those channel partners form part of the Brigantia community, and they range from one-man band MSPs through to some of the largest technology companies in the world.
And have you always been a sort of cybersecurity specialist?
So the focus on cyber has really come to fruition since about 2016. The company was a management buyout from a much larger player called Clarinet. At that point, we were focused on broadband and some cloud backup, other recurring revenue streams, having previously been a hardware buying group in the early days of the late 90s, early 2000s. Since that point, we've focused entirely on cyber. Interestingly, that came off the back of an event that our major shareholder attended at the Danish embassy with Heimdall Security, who are still one of our fantastic vendor partners today. I think we identified the opportunity there and then that cybersecurity was going to be over the following few years, and it was a very good decision for the business to take that direction.
Yeah, there are worse industries to have picked on. And what's the benefit of being a specialist for your partners?
Oh, well, there's a benefit for the partners, and there's also a benefit for the vendors. I think the main one is definitely focus on both sides. By only having 17 vendors that we do at the moment, maybe 18 by Christmas, we'll see, but 17 vendors, that means that we can be very specialist in what we do. It means that we can be real outsource experts for those vendors, act as an extension of their team, but also act as an extension of our partners' teams, because we know those vendors inside and out. And it's not possible for channel partners to know every single vendor that they might have to work with in the depth that is required at times. So we act as an outsourced support for those channel partners.
And as you said, you often get vendors at quite an early stage in their development. Yeah. How do you find them and choose them?
So our selection process for vendors is something that we take really, really seriously. It's kind of what we live and die by. We want this Brigantia seal of approval to be something that really means something. And so we take a vendor through quite a rigorous selection process, which will be very much technology driven. The first thing being that they have to be a solution to a genuine problem. I was speaking to someone the other day, and I think it was a Canalys stat that said that channel partners have 80,000 vendor partners that they could work with, which I just think is a remarkable stat. So with that choice that is available to partners, we want to bring what we believe is genuinely the best solution for our channel partners to them. So we focus on having a technology at every layer of like a cybersecurity defensive system, whether that's 365 security or endpoint security, whatever it may be. And we try and avoid overlapping those vendors so that we can really be clear on what we think is the best route for channel partners to take. And clearly, once we've been through a very in-depth technical and compliance process to understand that this partner is suitable, clearly we've got to be happy commercially that it makes sense for our partners, but obviously for ourselves. And I'm always very open with channel partners that to be able to offer the service that we are trying to, and what we're doing day in and day out with the investment in the team, we've got to be making some money as well. So it's a slightly different take on what was traditional distribution, working at much smaller percentages. We need to be able to make some more money so that we can invest properly back into our partners, and also in that technology and expertise.
And you described yourself earlier as a value-added distributor. What does that mean for?
Yeah, I think the value piece is really important because we don't want to just sell something and move on. Obviously, the days of shifting tin, in the size of business we are pretty slim. Most of our channel partners would be able to buy on Amazon cheaper than they would be from a business that is our size. We're not a small business, but we're certainly not hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds. So by adding value, what I mean is that we have clarity of message that we're bringing to partners, and we're able to really articulate clearly to them why these solutions are of benefit to them and their customers. But moreover, we can actually help them day to day in their business, right? We can help them to build a recurring revenue business. We can help them to identify new opportunities to be able to add recurring revenue to their business, whether that's through sales and marketing, and some of those initiatives might look like our recently launched partner toolkits, which are on a per vendor basis, a specific pack that is designed from the ground up for an MSP to be able to take any given vendor solution to their clients in a way that's easy for the clients to understand, instead of being a vendor product presentation or a vendor being stood too close to their product, to be able to really articulate the real world values and benefits of the services. That's something we've invested heavily in and will continue to do so. One other way that I would say is a real differentiator, and I was talking to James actually before we started, was like we've focused really hard on retaining our team. That means that they are extremely knowledgeable, and some of our product specialist team are real world experts in the area of the market that they're working, whether that's password management, whether that's patching, whatever it may be. And that team is at the every beck and call really of our channel partners day in and day out to support them in their training initiatives internally, or their sales efforts with their clients, product presentations, whatever it may be, speaking at events. They're there to support, and I think that's a real huge value add that we bring to the market.
Yeah, because obviously you've got sort of various sort of platforms you can buy from now, but it's that sort of whole support and sort of curation that is a big difference.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing. Is like we want Brigantia to be seen to be the place that channel partners buy from, not necessarily the vendor specifically that they're buying. Like I went on a call only 3 or 4 weeks ago with a brand new partner, went through the process, and we were talking about Brigantia and how Brigantia can help their business more than actually the products in question. As it happened, off the back of the call, they've engaged with 5 of our vendors because it makes sense for them to work with us in one place and have the benefit of our team and rounded experiences. Also, one route to market and all of those benefits that come with that from a supply chain and the old school one throat to throttle as such, if in the event of something needing to be escalated. So we're happy with that, and we're happy with the accountability that comes with that. But it's very much a human touch still. It's very much old school customer service. If you ring our office, it'll be answered within 2 rings. It's that sort of motto that comes with it than, perhaps just buying some licenses and moving on.
And how else has sort of distribution changed in the last decade? Or
I think it's had to find its new place, really. It's had to find its relevance. We talked a little bit about hardware. It's not about shipping and logistics and storage space anymore. It's around, can you really add value to channel partners to be able to help them generate more business themselves? But equally, it's on the vendor side. It's had to find relevance for vendor technologies as well. Why would they not go direct to channel partners? Well, the answer to any vendor I'd speak to is that we've got 1,400 partners ready to buy your technology if it's the right fit and something that we think suitable for them. So it had to evolve at some pace, really, because obviously cloud came and then cyber has all come with that, and it's a very different space to what it was, even 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago.
And has your sort of base of reseller customers, has that changed? The more cyber
it's got bigger, and because as the business is growing, but it's also then seen consolidation. Like we talked a little bit before about private equity and the impact that that's having on the industry. Is like, some of our best partners are very well-known, well-backed, private equity-backed MSPs, and some of those are acquiring every other week. Some every other month. Like that level of acquisition is clearly causing some stir in the channel, whether that's due to route to markets consolidation and the fact that it can create serious churn for certain technologies if you're not on the right side of a private equity backed acquisition. So it's changed massively, and I think the VAR space is completely different to what it was 10 years ago. I think the VARs have either grown to be absolute behemoths, very well advertised and big companies, or they've had to evolve and become managed service providers. There's very few highly successful sub 20 million VARs anymore. Very, very few. They've either become a managed service provider or they've gone into that space and got bigger much quicker, which is really interesting, and it makes it a different dynamic to sell to. It suits us down to the ground. We're very specialist in MSP, and our business has evolved to find its relevance in VARs and helping their sales team. It's more about sales enablement in a VAR scenario necessarily than the service wrap that comes with the MSP space.
And what are the sort of fastest growing areas of your portfolio?
That's an easy one right now, simply because I don't know whether you'd seen previously, but the Google and Yahoo, two of the largest technology businesses in the world, obviously have announced new rules around DMARC, meaning that DMARC has to be properly configured on sender domains. That means that since the 22nd of December, our latest vendor technology we signed, SendMark on the 22nd of December, have signed more technology partners, MSP partners, since the 22nd of December to now than any other vendor we've ever launched in the whole first year. So that's very much driven by demand because of the changes from these two massive technology companies, but also PCI compliance requiring DMARC configuration being done properly. I think that's early next year. So there's a lot of market drivers behind DMARC enablement. And to be honest, 12 months ago, it was relatively unknown. I think the risks of not having a domain were properly configured were relatively unknown, and the fact that you could basically impersonate any domain in the world that wasn't configured properly, quite scary. But that's created a whole new revenue stream for channel partners, and I've heard some great stories, and we've got a number of case studies now of channel partners that have created new tens of thousands of profit off the back of doing an opt-out campaign, for example, into their customers relating to DMARC. But also in the VAR space, it's a whole nother area of the market that is relevant to every single end customer, and very rarely do channel partners get the opportunity to take a solution to every single customer. It's a really interesting evolvement of the market, and we've continued to do well. So that was SendMark, fantastic technology, great guys to work with. Spent a lot of time with them at InfoSec last week, and really refreshing for channel partners to be working with an organisation like that. And then equally, we've seen continued demand for some of our core vendor partners. KnowBe4, where the MSP Disti for KnowBe4 in the UK, doing really well with them, and similarly password management with Keeper. Demise of LastPass over the last 12 months has been very helpful for them. I think everyone would relate to that, and they've done extremely well off the back of that. Fantastic technology, and really suitable for managed service providers as well. But yeah, it's a great little portfolio. It's something we don't add to lightly, but generally speaking, across the board, all the vendors are performing really well. And I was saying to you earlier, I'm with CyberSmart again in the coming weeks as well. So.
And what sort of further developments can we look forward to from Brigantia in the rest of the year?
So yeah, we have our major partner event in October, which is always a highlight of the year. That's the 2nd to 3rd of October. So anyone that's watching this back before then will be able to register for that, all being well.
Where's that?
Twickenham Stadium, 2nd and 3rd. Be a great couple of days. All of our major vendor partners are involved in that those 2 days, and there'll be about 150 to 200 channel partners there across the couple of days. We've also got Charlie McMurdy, who is a really well-renowned speaker, who was the first female head of the UK cybercrime unit, which will be really, really interesting to hear from her. And also off the back of InfoSec, which we've done very recently, and me meeting Heimdall's chief enchantment officer, who is a magician and illusionist called Roberto. I've put an inquiry into him whether he might be around to work that one of those evenings. One of the most remarkable things I've ever seen. So a bit off topic, but 2nd and 3rd of October, major partner event, and we've got various other event investments that are coming up in the coming weeks and months, which forms an important part of how we work closely with our community. But my team are out on the road a lot. I was saying to James earlier, where we supporting partner events. I know there's a number of keynote presentations being given by some of our product specialist team, which is also really pleasing to hear about. And as I said, maybe there'll be another vendor before Christmas. We'll see. If so, that will get a huge amount of focus. I've got no doubt. We're in final discussion with a couple of vendors, but it's got to be absolutely right for us to bring it to market and make it an 18th vendor in the portfolio.
It'll be interesting to see who that is, because of course, as well as protecting their own customers, MSPs also need to protect themselves. Is that something that you hear a lot from?
That's a really good point, James. I think the MSPs have to eat their own dog food. I think it's one way to put it bluntly. It's something you often see is not the case. I think how you can be a managed service provider looking after end clients if you're not properly protecting yourselves, or at least taking reasonable steps to protect yourself. Things like having cyber essentials as a minimum, I would say, is something that all MSPs should be doing, or if not striving to do very fast. And I think there will be more regulation. Seen starts of that in Europe already, but I think there will be more regulation coming into force relating to the standard of MSPs and how they look after themselves, and therefore the level of service that an end customer can expect. As a minimum, we expect most of our MSPs to be buying the services that they're working with us on us, and some of those are on an NFR basis, but others they're not. And that's technology. It's an investment that you should have in every business, really.
And longer term, do you have any sort of big ambitions?
Oh, I've got lots of big ambitions. Whether the wider board agree with them all is another matter, so we'll see, and I won't go into too much excitement there. But loads of ambitions around growth of the business. I think, there's at least 7,000 is the minimum level of channel partners, the MSPs that you hear about in the UK. We're saying we've only got 1,400 of those at the moment. So my lesser ambitions are for us to take a good chunk of those, that's for certain, in the coming years, no doubt at all. And we'll continue to invest heavily in making sure that our existing partners are really well serviced. I've always had great backing from the board to make sure that we are pouring enough resources into being able to answer the phone in 2 rings and all of those things that come with proper old school customer service. So we'll continue with that, and hopefully we'll have some exciting additions to the portfolio, and the growth will continue, whether that's in the UK or beyond. We'll see.
So Angus, how do you expect the market to develop?
It's an interesting one. I think that it's always changing so much, and the topic of AI is almost impossible to escape. I'm sure it will continue to have an influence, certainly in marketing messages. Whether that actually comes to fruition in technology is a whole nother conversation. But from my perspective, we're seeing unprecedented demand still for third-party patching of applications. We're seeing so many technologies claiming to do a really good job in that space, but actually in reality are not providing the level or depth of service that a lot of channel partners are expecting. So I think that'll continue to go. Obviously, we've talked about DMARC already. I think that demand will only continue. Identity theft, fraud is something that really resonates with end users, irrelevant of whether they're technical or not. And I think that is something that will continue to grow at pace. There'll be millions and millions and millions of domains added to the fully compliant DMARC list, I've got no doubt. And we're not seeing any signs of it slowing down from a traditional sort of password management model either. So there's loads of ways it'll evolve. We're looking closely at some other areas, which I can't go into too much detail on, but we're certainly interested in dark web in more depth and a few other areas. So I've got no doubt that involvement will continue, and MSPs will continue to play an absolutely massive part in that delivery of services and supporting end clients, because clearly the world's not getting any smaller. So
no, or safer.
Yeah.
And so if you had one bit of advice to offer to MSPs, what would it be?
I get asked this a lot. I'd say don't stand still. I think one of the hardest things that MSPs find is that actually selling. Selling is obviously often seen as like a bit of a dirty word, but if you're just renewing your customers every year, you're not going to grow. And good money says that private equity will come along and maybe buy one of your customers at some point, or conversely and worse, one of them might go bust, and you're in a situation where if you're not selling, your business is smaller. And if that happens to be a very large customer, that can have serious consequences on your business. So taking good advice around sales and marketing, I think is really important, something that we feel as if we can add really good value in, and happy to have a more sort of high-level conversation around that and how we could support. But certainly don't stand still, both from a sales, marketing, technology standpoint. Don't just assume that what you've done forever is the same. And I'm sure that would be a good piece of advice.
Well, that is very good advice. And Angus, thank you very much for joining us today. Very interesting chat. And I look forward to finding out more about that 18th vendor you've been talking about.
Thanks, James. Great to be with you. Thank you for having me.